All right, welcome everyone to another Total Image Woman of the Week. And hey, right now, fear, overwhelm, worry, stress, anger. Anybody feeling that? Because our world, yeah, really, I know, our world has gone crazy and it seems to get crazier and more devastating and just it's upsetting. And even though many of us are still sheltering in place and still inside, we still are aware of what's going on out there in the world because it keeps us from being out in the world, and because what we're seeing on the news and hearing from friends and family and people out there in the world is upsetting. So what do you do about this? Part of the reason that I do this Total Image Woman of the Week is to introduce you all to different small businesses so that you can expand your circle and also just support the small businesses. And I'll tell you, this week, we all need what Debra Woog has to offer. Now, Debra is a crisis navigation, it can be your crisis navigation partner. And I have known Debra for, let's see, your daughter is what, 16 now?
Her birthday's on Monday, so yeah, 16 years.
Oh, 16, happy birthday. And well, I think she was about 9 months old when I met you, something like that. She was very little.
Yeah, she was like 2 months, 6
Okay,
months.
2 months old, yeah. So I have known you for about 16 years, and I've always been so impressed with what you do, how you connect with people, your genuineness, your expertise, your talent for just being able to make people feel safe and heard. And so what you're doing now is amazing. Now, what's interesting is that, yes, you've always been a fabulous coach, and now you are really focusing on crisis support. And what's interesting is that you were doing this even before COVID-19 happened. So how did you get to where you are now with your business? So tell us a little bit about how that all happened.
Well, I've always been really interested in where psychology and business kind of intersect. And I studied psychology undergrad, and I went to business school, and all the work that I've done has been kind of at the intersection. And so most recently, I was a leadership and career coach and organizational change consultant for about 20 years. And for the last few years, I just wasn't jazzed about my work the way that I used to be, and I couldn't put my finger on why. So last summer and spring, I took some time to really reflect and think about it. And what I realized was I had been through some real humdingers of situations in my own personal life, with my family. And I really had developed an appreciation for what is truly a crisis and what is not such a big deal, but people get a little more blown up about it than they need to. And I found that I really wanted to engage with people on the big deals in their life, not the small stuff. And I had been doing this since I was a teenager, where I was helping people through crises of all kinds. And I realized that it was a theme that had just run through my life and career. And so I thought, if I could design my own profession, what would it be and how would it work? And so I came up with this term, crisis navigation partner, and I can explain what that is. And last summer, I just refocused my whole business around doing this work, and scrapped my old website and started from scratch, and just felt very enervated by the whole thing, and just like, I don't know why, but this feels like the right thing to be doing. And I kept feeling that and saying that. And at the time when I was thinking about the types of crises I could be helpful in, they were all things that I've had experience with, either as a coach or as a person. So divorce, death of a loved one, dealing with a physical health or mental health diagnosis of yourself or of a loved one, business disputes, downsizing organizations. That's what I had in mind for crisis. Pandemic never crossed my mind. Oh. So I don't think we should give me extra points for foresight, but I was following my intuition when I decided to really focus on this. And I thought about what skills I'd want to use to support someone through a crisis. I had been through some of those humdingers feeling alone, like really alone, a family nearby. And some of the stuff that I had to handle for my family was really tough. And I was the only adult involved, really. And I don't want anyone else to ever have to feel that way, that they're going through their crisis all alone. And so my idea was to become a partner for people during those times, people who feel solo in life or work. Maybe they're a solopreneur, or maybe they're an only adult child having to take care of elderly parents, or maybe they're unpartnered. You could be solo for different reasons in different contexts.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do for people, and what I do for people, is I'm not a therapist, and I don't pretend to be a therapist, but I give people emotional support in the way that I would as a coach and as a friend. I help people strategize for all the difficult conversations that can go along with being in a crisis, whether you have to talk to your family members or healthcare providers or attorneys or people in a school district or your boss or your clients. People have these difficult conversations that they need to have, that they're scared to have, that they're uncomfortable to have, they're afraid to say the wrong thing. And I help them really prepare so they can go into that situation confidently. And in some cases, I even go with them to the conversations and serve as an advocate as well. Like I've done this for people when they had to have difficult meetings with their school district, for example, or with healthcare providers. I've done that too. So I help people with emotional support. I help people strategize for difficult conversations. I help connect them to other resources that they may need. I know a lot of people, and I'm fortunate to have relationships with a lot of people, and I'm so fascinated by all the different kinds of careers there are in the world, which is why I was a leadership and career coach for so long, that I know people who do all kinds of jobs. And often I'm a person saying, oh, you're looking for someone to help you feel more comfortable in your clothes for work after you haven't worked in an organization for a while and you have baby spit up all over your clothes. That was me. I came to you. So in the first place, when I got offered a big job, I wanted to do the job. It sounded really great, but I thought, I don't have anything to wear. I turned it down. And then I thought about that. Wait a minute. Maybe I should turn down the job because I don't have anything to wear. And that's how I met you. But I refer other people to you, so I understand what people do, and I help them find resources, either professionally or sometimes just someone who's gone through the same thing is really helpful. And I also do research projects. A lot of times when people are in crisis, they're under a lot of time pressure. And for a lot of people, that's not true, like in this pandemic where we feel like we've got too much time in our hands.
Some people.
For some people, but for a lot of the other kinds of crises I was describing, people have time pressure. I need to make this decision quickly for these reasons, and I don't have time to do it by myself. I can't go figure this out by myself. So I will take on those research projects for the client and go away, gather all the information. I'd love to do research, come back and say, okay, here's the 5 options I've identified for you in this situation. Here's the pros and cons of each one. Here's who we can get more information from if you need it. And now you decide. So those are some of the ways that I support my clients as a crisis navigation partner.
I believe there are no accidents in this world. So the fact that you thought about doing this a year ago means that you were just in the right place at the right time and using your skills. You have an amazing complement of skills, your own personal experience along with your 20 years or so of coaching skills that you have honed. So you are a perfect person to do that. And it's interesting what you said about the research, because I think sometimes people don't think about having someone else do that. I have a client who just emailed me, and she had sent me some pictures of her home for an experiment, a little exercise that we were doing. And she said, now I didn't choose those. I hired an interior designer, and she sent me ideas, and then I picked one. And I thought, you chose it. If you didn't like any of the things that she had said to you, you would have said, no, I don't like those. But by being able to narrow it down, it just takes that pressure off of you to have someone say, here are some possibilities, and A will help you do this, and B will help you do that, and C. And so having that, particularly now, we talked about people maybe having more time on their hands, or maybe not. I mean, people are homeschooling now, and trying to juggle. Some people are actually working more than they were before, or they're now the sole breadwinner if they weren't before, and there were two of them in the family making money. So there's lots of different ways that you can obviously support people. And then what happened? I mean, and also, this is really important. You are an incredible connector. You also organized one of the Polkadot Powerhouse. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's an incredible women's networking organization that's here and in Canada at least. You organized a local one. So not only are you an incredible connector, but you now know even more people than you did before who do a whole myriad of things. So yeah, it's really pretty incredible what you're doing. And what have you found? How have things changed or accelerated, or what's happened since COVID-19 and all the Black Lives Matter, all the things we have going on out there in the world that are so challenging right now?
What's happened since in my business?
Your business, yeah.
So in my career, which has lasted 30 plus years so far since college, earliest in my career, when I was a researcher at Harvard Business School, I was extremely interested in, and I'm still really interested in, diversity and inclusion. And so the research that I did had to do with how do gender and race influence an individual's career development as they try to rise towards being an executive in a large company. So, and I also worked in organizational change around diversity, and I've done a lot of work on that. It's the whole subject of racial justice and gender justice, that they're both very close to my heart personally. In the past week, I would say that all the events in the United States have definitely touched me personally, emotionally. My business hasn't changed at all in the past week because of that. But I often talk to people who are in a crisis because they're the first, or they're the only, or they're one of a few who are like them in some identity category, and they're struggling with something very difficult because of it.
Yeah. And so where do you see your business going? Actually, let me back up for a minute. Like, who are the people that you serve? Who do you find are the people who most often come to you?
The people who most often come to me are usually women. They're usually professionals, whether or not they're currently practicing. That they're not necessarily working currently, but they have been professionals. They're usually highly educated women, at least a bachelor's degree, frequently advanced degree beyond that. And I especially like working with clients who see themselves as leaders in some aspect or in every aspect of their life and work. And that could be because they have a positional leadership role in an organization, or it could be because it's their orientation to how they think about themselves in the world, in their family, etc. More recently, mentioning my business, I have been busier than ever during the pandemic. So I've had a lot more people coming to me who are leaders of their organizations, and they're thinking about, maybe not like a whole giant organization, but they're piece of an organization, or sometimes a whole small organization, and they're thinking about what changes do they need to make as a leader as it pertains to the shifts that have been happening because of the pandemic. So that's something that I find very interesting, how people need to shift their leadership in times of crisis. And then in addition to that, I have become a contact tracer for the state of Massachusetts because I felt like that was one way I could really use my crisis communication skills and a variety of my skills to serve people who are either directly touched by COVID, they've tested positive, or they're close contacts of people who have COVID. They've been exposed over a period of time. Usually they live with somebody who has COVID. And so it's my job there to develop relationships with people and make sure they have all the resources that they need so they can isolate or quarantine during the period of time to keep their communities safe from their exposure. So in that role, I've worked with people from a lot more walks of life than I have been working with through my private client base. And that's been rewarding and eye-opening experience. And I think my eyes were open before, but they're open a little wider now. And I definitely see a connection between the pandemic and the unrest that's surfaced to an even higher level right now because communities of color are disproportionately affected by COVID.
Yes, absolutely. Debra, will you share your website with people so that they know how to get in touch with you?
Sure. The name of my business is Connect2 Corporation, and my website is www.connecttwo, like the number 2 spelled as a word, .com, connecttwo.com.
And I will put that in the comments too, so if anybody missed that or isn't sure they're spelling it right, whatever, I will make sure it's there for them. Also, is there something, obviously we would love everybody to come and connect with you and partner with you around crisis. Is there something that you can suggest that someone do if they're really, overwhelmed by fear, worry, anger, or any myriad negative things that can be going on and feel like they're in a crisis? Is there something that you can suggest that they could do to take the first step on their own?
Well, one thing, I don't know if this is the same, but I don't know if this is, tell me if this fits what you're looking for. But one thing is that I created maybe like 6 weeks ago an option to connect with me called Navigating Your Challenging Feelings During the COVID Crisis. And that's a free consultation that I do with people just to come and talk about how you're feeling. And what I can do is listen and hold the space. Wow. And if I can see something that might be helpful for you, whether that's an action you could take or an organization you could connect with, I'm happy to share whatever comes to mind for me. But even if it's not necessarily about my sharing, it's about you sharing and having someone to listen to you fully and take that in. So my website is what I told you. I also have a link that's connectwithdebra.com, connectwithdebra.com, and you can go to that and get right on my calendar if you're interested in a crisis consultation or a navigating your difficult feelings during COVID consultation.
That's brilliant, because I'm sure everybody who comes to you needs something different. So having them be able to connect with you for this research is really, truly amazing and so generous of you. So thank you for offering that. So I hope you all have, can breathe a little sigh of relief knowing that there is help out there. And the wonderful thing about technology is that you do not have to live in Debra's backyard in order to be able to connect with her. You can do it from anywhere. So I will make sure that the links for Debra's connection, both connectwithdebra.com and connect2.com, are in the comments. And I encourage you, if you feel any of those things that are just weighing you down and feeling overwhelming and you feel in crisis, don't judge yourself. Just, connect with Debra and get some relief, because that's really what one of the things that we all need right now is a little bit of support. And I mean, we need lots of things out there in the world for sure, but having support is a step in the right direction. So Debra, I want to thank you for being on today and sharing your expertise. And it's always lovely to see you. And wish your daughter, I don't know if you'd like to say your kid's name. So wish your daughter a very happy birthday on Monday. I'm sure you have something very special planned. And I encourage everyone to get in touch with you, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Ginger. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.